We can't get anywhere without culture in our lives. State funding for cultural programs is set to increase over 3 years to support its growth. This means new stage productions, films, literature, and exhibitions. It also means manufacturing equipment, often replacing imports. We'll show you now. Up next, our first story. Made in Russia. Eight, Sofiaskaya Street, St. Petersburg. This is a so-called playing machine. 20 minutes of relentless pounding, like playing nonstop for 2 years. But the St. Petersburg pianos hold up. By the way, the total production process for a single instrument takes 5 years. Why? You'll see why. Shall we start? The painstaking process of birthing a musical instrument begins with selecting the wood. This is high-altitude spruce. Not just common Siberian spruce, but specifically from high peaks. It's from Kabardino-Balkaria. The wood dries for at least 4 years before delivery. The soundboard is, naturally, made according to strict rules. All other parts, like the frame, are made from that same wood. If you don't have the right wood density, you won't get good sound. The distance between annual rings on the soundboard must not exceed 4 millimeters. Finding a supplier was difficult. Actually, so was replacing a lot of imported parts. Before the aggressive Western sanctions, it was a joint production with a famous German concern.
Is what you have now basically a Bernstein with import substitutions? Or is this actually a Mikhail Glinka, the St. Petersburg one?
The technology is German, but all materials and the golden hands of our craftsmen are Russian. Today, we have achieved about 80% localization within our factory. The acoustic unit, the deck, and the ribs were the hardest parts to make. The strings are now Russian. The keyboard and keys are only similar in appearance. You can't swap keys, as they are weighted uniquely. So they say every instrument has its own soul. The company is working on developing a Russian frame. It takes years of experimentation to start mass-producing an instrument.
Perhaps you could demonstrate for us. How does it sound?
Of course. Currently, the product range includes 2 models of grand pianos and 2 uprights. They differ in their action. One instrument features a more expensive mechanism using high-cost materials. The other is simpler, but both are professional-grade pianos. Students train on these instruments from the northern capital. Concerts are performed on them all across Russia. As of today, we produce over 400 instruments a year, with 3,500 already delivered. The supply of these Russian instruments was initially supported by the Culture and Family National Projects. As other support measures, manufacturers mention long-term contracts that help plan investments in development. We have successfully concluded a 5-year contract with the Yamalo-Nenets Culture Department for the supply of pianos.
It would be fantastic to scale this model nationwide.
The need for new instruments in music schools is still great. To keep the market from foreign competitors of dubious quality, production must expand and staff be trained. Unfortunately, becoming a master tuner takes about 10 years, if not longer. We have a training center staffed by leading masters from the Russian Association of Piano Makers. They come here to organize seminars and provide training, upgrading the skills of existing craftsmen. Another great opportunity to expand production is to start exporting. Here, the Russian Export Center helps with everything from training to logistics reimbursement.
до помощи сертификации и компенсации затрат на логистику.
Regarding changes in our subsidy policy, the most important shift is moving away from a retroactive compensatory model to an incentive-based model. The goal is to grant subsidies to companies most efficient in terms of budget spending versus export volume.
Эффективны с точки зрения бюджетных расходов и количества экспорта, которые они создадут за счет бюджетных денег.
Hundreds of companies have already used these support measures in the next 10 years to supply abroad. In Russia as a whole, and in St. Petersburg in particular. Today, 8,000 exporting companies in St. Petersburg supply products to 147 countries. The leading export destinations are China, Belarus, India, and the CS countries. I'd note the city's strong potential for supplying pharmaceuticals, electronics, power machinery, and food. By 2030, the export volume of non-resource, non-energy goods must be increased by at least 1/3. Russian art supplies could well become an international brand. There is such an example in Ryazan. Made in Russia. 147 Moskovskoy Shas, Ryazan. This is a place where the world is literally bursting with color. A company in the Ryazan region produces up to 1,000 tons of children's paints per year. Take the watercolors here, for example. Before hitting the conveyor belt, they must be carefully mixed by hand. Though, of course, the automation is also top-notch, and the company produces far more than just paints. The product range is incredibly rich. What else? Let's take a look. Let's start with art paints, for both children and adults. The company is the largest manufacturer in the country. Our breakthrough began in 2023. Since then, we have been releasing a new or significantly improved paint every year. Right now, we are about to launch oil paints, very high quality, in March. This is our peak product. Prior to this, we consistently improved the formulation of each type of paint. When some foreign competitors left the market, this Russian manufacturer didn't hesitate. They won over consumer trust a long time ago. Moms are risk-averse, so they buy things that are made in Russia and proven. Russian quality standards are actually stricter than, for example, in China. There's no smell, it's water-based. And the coloring pigments used here are also completely safe for kids and adults. Here is an interesting detail about the watercolors. They must go through this drying chamber. It's plus 47 degrees in here. It stays in this heat for 3 days, otherwise you won't get the required quality. Over the last 6 years, I think we have updated practically our entire fleet of equipment.
Is the investment amount a secret?
No, but it's nearly 1 billion rubles total. As a result, besides paints, the assortment is quite colorful. There are several production lines: felt tip pens, pencils, and crayons, modeling clay, canvas, primer, and varnish. Our newest item, pastels. Not too long ago, we developed a really great dry pastel. The quality is fantastic. It entered the market very well. We work with the Russian Union of Pastel Artists. They also value this product very highly and say that it is, fundamentally, one of the best globally. Plastic manufacturing takes place right where the paints are produced. This includes not just jars for gouache, but also rulers and pencil cases. We produce about 9 million sets in total. With 1.3 million new first graders, practically everyone attending school interacts with our product. The products are not just for Russian school children. We supply the CS. We have experience exporting to Iran, Eastern Europe, and the USA, with support. Yes, we have many joint programs with the Russian Export Center. This covers part of the costs we incur for transporting goods and participating in exhibitions. The creative sector is a steadily growing segment of exports. Unique souvenirs, designer clothes, cartoons, and movies. Many goods are shown as made in Russia during the cross years of culture between Russia and China. This is a well-established trend. We see not just interest, but actual solid export contracts. For our film and animation products, we want these opportunities and markets for our products to expand next year. Meanwhile, the Ryazan company is preparing new products for creative people. For example, in the lab, we saw chameleon paint. Only experts with a capital E can create something like this, and they are in short supply. This is a really sore point. They are a rare commodity. We literally scour the market for them with our entire team and train them ourselves. By the way, production moved to Ryazan from Moscow. It's not far, which is the challenge. You need the workforce to stay local. And it's not just about the salary. Right now, the Ryazan region is a leader in housing availability, square meters per capita. We have about 37 square meters, whereas the national average is about 29. This affects the structure of demand and the interest in new housing. And our emphasis now is not just on building new housing. We are catching up on social infrastructure, building schools, clinics, and sports facilities. We have 45 facilities under construction simultaneously across the region. Each one is important precisely for creating a comfortable living environment. And here is one more example of how products that fuel the imagination help children. This isn't about sales. The company collaborates with a charitable foundation helping orphans and seriously ill children. As it turns out, paints can also promote Russian industry. We saw an example of this at the Federation Council. An art exhibition was held in the upper house. Industry, industrial plein air. The heroes are the working people. Here, molten metal is poured, a craftsman machines parts. Here are the machine tools. Artists from the town of Serdobsk spent hours painting from life on the factory floors. Some artists, friends, and acquaintances ask us, why are pipes so interesting? All these bolts and pipes. Flowers seem better and more beautiful. But you see, you can find something interesting even in pipes, with soul. If you like it, the audience will feel it. This type of painting was very popular in the Soviet years, when industry was booming. Now it is relevant again, as there is a great need for skilled workers. To be a person of labor, someone who can design machines, operate them, and create a sovereign state. By the way, the company which initiated the exhibition manufactures machine tools in Penza. Leading the popularity of labor is right. To show we aren't messing around, but are engaged in machine tool building, so no one forgets. In Penza, almost 20 years ago they revived the machine tool industry. Now, the localization level of some machine models is already over 90%. They are becoming more complex and smarter. Production could be increased manifold, provided there is demand and support. The first machine tool building cluster in Russia has also been created in the Penza region. We've always had high specialization in machine building and radio electronics. Accordingly, machine tool building and the machine tool cluster are actively developing. By the way, Stankomash, one of our largest enterprises, has mastered the casting of machine beds. This is, by the way, actually not a simple matter, casting machine beds. Nevertheless, we have mastered casting. Therefore, our enterprises are actively developing and substituting imports. Whenever possible, Russian machine tools are used by the hero of our next story, who produces many useful products for the culture and arts sector in Irkutsk.
Made in Russia.
3A, Ushakovsky Street, Dzerzhinsk, Irkutsk region. I see this as an anechoic chamber, but could you explain why it's needed and what makes it special? As I understand it, these are far from common. There might not be another in the country. Yes, you are absolutely right. We are currently in an anechoic chamber. It was created for testing. The acoustic systems we develop in order to obtain very precise data on the parameters the system will output. This is the only facility existing today in the post-Soviet space specifically for acoustic systems. Back in the 2000s, this site used to be a vegetable storage facility, but now, this Irkutsk company manufactures acoustic systems. The American system also costs 75,000 rubles, but for that price, the Russian one already has a built-in amplifier. With the American, you buy an amp for 100,000. As for demand, initially they produced at most 50 systems a year. Now it's 600 a month. There's more. Regarding acoustic systems, we are not stopping at just producing the systems themselves. Today, we are already developing amplifiers. I am moving amplifier and speaker driver production from abroad to Russia. I'm going to make interactive panels that are used in schools.
Without modernization, there's no development.
We work closely with the Irkutsk government, which is interested in local manufacturers. Second, with the Industrial Development Fund. This is an organization for business development. And we have certain loans, you know, at 1% per annum, inexpensive loans to purchase machines. But the company doesn't just make acoustic systems. They fully produce pianos, lighting equipment, stage machinery, and seating. For any venue, from schools to movie theaters and stadiums. Like the Ulan-Ude Opera and Ballet Theater, designed in an antique style, but modern inside. I made an exact copy of that chair, but used modern sound-absorbing cushions. I designed it to recline.
And in 2011, this theater received the International Pro Integration Award for Best Equipment.
The best in Russia that year. In other words, turnkey equipping of cultural and sports facilities. And not just across Russia. There was a program called Russian Schools in Tajikistan. Around 11 schools were built there. Well, in 5 of those 11 schools, I fully equipped the assembly halls and classrooms. Now is the time to show how cultural facilities are actually developing. To the theater.
Made in Russia.
4. Makarenko Street, Building 1, Moscow. Making way for young talent. The Children's Musical Theater of the Young Actor is actively paving the way. Today, it comprises several stages, a creative workshop, and studios. We'll find out more about its growth, as well as the strengthening of art for export. The theater was founded back in 1988 by honored artist of Russia Alexander Fedorov. Favorite song?
He is someone who puts his heart and soul into his creative work.
All right, quiet. I am the audience now. Now I am listening to you, watching you. Let's go, 3 to 4. Go. Wait. Winding. A white ski track winds through white fields. What kind of skis do I have? They just glide by themselves. The artistic director told us that initially, the small basement hall made large sets impossible. To stage performances with large-scale sets. With government support, the theater received a new building. This is an investment project by the Moscow government. Moscow believed in us. Moscow provided the funding. We were supported by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Our great, kind friends. During the reconstruction, they restored the historical facade and added 3 floors. It was a challenge. And, of course, all this construction was completed in record-breaking time. On May 21st, 2019, just a pit was here.
And on March 25, 2021, 2 years later, President Vladimir Putin arrived here.
This is our entire cheerful troop, our gang. The photos go down along the corridor. Ages 9 to 16 here, right? Actually, not from 9. Kids come here at almost 7.5. Before that, we have a preschool group. The coronavirus pandemic prevented meeting the actors in person back then, but a solution was found. Please, we will now present our theater to you. Yes, please, go ahead. Hello, Vladimir Vladimirovich. My name is Agatha Andreeva. I'm an actress at the Young Actors Theater, and we will tell you about our theater. Everything here is designed to let children's creativity take flight. There are 2 auditoriums, a 248-seat main hall, a transformable stage, and modern sound. Not all equipment is made in Russia, but they tried to address this where possible. The president's chair is made in Russia. Yes, it is made in Russia. We spent a long time looking for a firm to manufacture it. Made in Russia. Of course, some of the equipment obviously, we had to procure. And most importantly, there are now many more young actors. The troupe has over 180 members. Over 15 productions in the repertoire. The old venue remains as well. The impromptu stage is under us now. Plus, there are summer creative theater laboratories, and new studios have been created. First 1, then 2, and now there are 4 studios attached to the theater. Each studio has about 150 people. There is support. Financially, the government's Department of Culture treats us well. We are also friends with the Presidential Fund for Cultural Initiatives. We already have 2 grants. We produced plays using these grants. We hope that we will continue this friendship in the future. We are friends with the Ministry of Culture of the Russian Federation. They also give us an annual grant for young directors. Grants also go towards supporting theater groups in orphanages. They hold many festivals together. On New Year's Eve was the Tree of Wishes. And the theater tries to scale up all the experience gained in developing young talent. We have toured all the CIS countries several times.
And believe me, this is, as our Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said, soft diplomacy.
It's very necessary. It's needed for Russian speakers too. Because Rassotrudnichestvo, as I already said, helps and has helped us. And this is needed now. Probably, I think, especially now. In wartime, of course,
Art for export, that very soft diplomacy, plays a huge role.
In recognition of these merits, the President awarded the REC director the Order of Friendship.
For me, this signifies recognition by the country's leadership of the need for our work as a team. Because our export success is the result of absolute teamwork involving
the exporters themselves, regional teams,
региональных команд, и правительства, и, конечно, команды российского
The
экспортного
government,
центра.
and, of course, the Russian Export Center team. These are stories where, through joint efforts, manufacturers and consumers strive to ensure that as much as possible is made in Russia.
Чтобы как можно больше было сделано в России. И за 10 месяцев прошлого года, в частности, производство
In the first 10
музыкальных
months of
инструментов
last year,
прибавило
musical
более
instrument
90%.
production rose by
Государство
93%.
поддержало закупки для учреждений на
The state supported
181
purchases for
миллиона рублей.
institutions totaling 181 million rubles.
And those who can put all this to good use will certainly be found.